How's it going, everyone? Data here, and welcome back to another NHL 22 career simulation. Today, looking at the potential career of the newly drafted first overall pick in the 2022 NHL Entry Draft by the Montreal Canadiens, Juraj Slafkovský. A bit of a surprise to some. I think I'm more surprised that the Canadiens passed on Wright than that they took Slafkovský. I'm very excited for what he could do in the NHL. 6'4", big boy, has a very, very high ceiling in today's NHL, has great hands for his size as well. I think he could be a star in this league, and today we're going to see how he does when drafted to the Canadiens. Will he stay on the Habs? Will he become a Canadiens legend? And what will his career look like? Coming soon, we'll also have the Shane Wright Kraken simulation, as I originally did Shane Wright with the Montreal Canadiens. He ended up being the Canadiens' all-time leader in points, assists, and games played, and won a Stanley Cup. So we'll see if Slafkovský can do any better in the NHL 22 simulation. The game gives him medium-elite potential at a 70 overall. As a Canadiens fan, as a YouTuber wanting to make good content, I didn't want to make it seem as if I was pumping him up too much, so I just increased his potential to high elite as the first overall selection, and I boosted up his overall to a 72. Nothing too crazy. I think he could be even more, but I'm going to keep it as that. He'll likely spend the first season in the AHL, as that may happen in the real world. I think that's a pretty realistic trajectory for Slafkovský, and I'm sure that he will grow very, very soon. So as mentioned, 72 overall, high elite, 17 years of age, power forward, 6'4", 218-pound left winger. He starts off with decent shooting at 3 stars. His offensive awareness is at 80, good skating at 84, acceleration and speed, 85 durability. He's a big guy. He has strength. He's just going to continue to develop physically as he gets 17, 18, 19 years of age, and I'm sure the skills will come along with it, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's at some 90-some overall within a few seasons. Was it the right selection for the Canadiens? Time will tell on that, but we're going to get into the simulation right now. As always, I take control of a totally separate team. I'll try and manipulate the draft a little bit to make sure that the Canadiens draft third, which is where Slafkovský usually goes, I believe, in the simulation. Injuries are turned on. Everything else is turned to auto. I have zero control over what takes place in this simulation. And by the end of it, we'll see where Slafkovský went throughout his career. Does he stay with the Habs? Does he end up going elsewhere? What kind of franchise or league records might he get, as well as any awards? We'll recap all of that at the end of this video. It takes a ton of time to make these videos, but they are one of my favorites to make. So if you are enjoying it, be sure to leave a like and do consider subscribing, as we do a lot more of NHL content and other sporting games and real-life sports content on the channel. So take a second to check it out. I'm sure that you would enjoy, and it would be that much sweeter with you as a part of the team. But without further ado, let's get to the 2022 NHL Entry Draft. So in the draft, the Montreal Canadiens picking at number 2 go ahead and draft Juraj Slafkovský. Of course, there's going to be differences in the NHL according to Shane Wright going to San Jose here. Generated prospects will come up, CPU trades will happen, free agency, but we are just really focusing on the career of Slafkovský and trying to tune out the rest of what's going on in the NHL. So Slafkovský does get drafted, 72 overall, 6'4", all those same attributes that we saw before. He does have some X factors that we can look at now, though. Big rig, his zone ability, as well as superstar abilities of crease crasher, no contest, back at ya, and big tipper. So as a big boy, he gets those big X factors. Doesn't seem as though the attributes have changed at all. We'll see what happens over this 2022 offseason and whether or not Juraj Slafkovský will start in the NHL or down with the Laval Rocket in the AHL. Year number 1 of Juraj Slafkovský's professional career in North America, and he is down in the AHL with the Laval Rocket. He did get some preseason time with the Montreal Canadiens as he played 4 games and scored 4 points, actually, 2 goals and 2 assists, when he averaged almost 16 minutes per night. So he definitely got a great show in the NHL, but he'll start his career down in the AHL, which I think would make sense in the real world as well. Playing on the first line with Evans and Armia, as well as getting some special teams time, so that's great to see right there. I don't think the attributes have changed at all, but hopefully he has a strong season down in the AHL, and we can see some time in the NHL sometime soon. Suzuki, Caulfield, newly acquired Kirby Dach. It should be a fun future. Down in the AHL, Slafkovský and the Rocket were unfortunately victims of circumstance as they finished 13th in the AHL with a record of 43, 31, and 8, but it unfortunately was not enough to make the playoffs according to their division. Shout out to the team also for scoring 3.17 goals for per game, which was 3rd highest in the entire league. Slafkovský did quite well in his first season in North America, played in 81 out of 82 games and scored 17 goals and 29 assists, 46 points from him, 10 power play points. He was a negative 12. He was averaging over 19 minutes per night and grew up to a 77 overall. Speaking of growth, he also grew to 6'5". The bones are still growing. They're not fused together just yet, so he gets just a little bit bigger. Attributes are looking like this: puck skills, shooting, all continuing to develop quite well. Looks like his physical, skating, and defense are probably the ones that need to continue to be worked on over this 2023 off season. And I'm very much looking forward to 23-24 when he should crack the NHL. Year number 2 now, Slafkovsky's first season in the NHL, and he finds himself on the top 6 with the Montreal Canadiens, playing with this guy Christian Gustafsson, the second overall pick in 2023. So that makes sense. The Canadiens will likely have a high pick in the 2023 draft and get a similar type of prospect, so that's cool to see another one in the system. Kirby Dach is also here, playing on the second line right wing. Caulfield on the fourth line. That's like, all these lines are probably going to change over time. I doubt Slafkovsky stays on the second line the entire season, but he is an 83 overall, listed as a third line scorer. In the preseason, he had 2 goals in 3 games, so we'll see if he can continue to translate the preseason success and get it into regular season success. He is at 4-star shooting, 90 offensive awareness, 4-star physical. He should be a force out there in the NHL, playing second line and first unit power play. So let's see how Slafkovsky's second season and first in the NHL goes. In Slafkovsky's rookie season, the Canadiens just missed out on the playoffs as they were the last Eastern Conference team to be on the outside looking in. They finished 20th in the NHL, but had a winning record of 40, 37, and 5. Slafkovsky had a very impressive rookie season, scoring 19 goals and 35 assists for 54 points in all 82 games. He was a +5, had 14 power play points, and averaged 19 minutes per night. After that great season, he now finds himself at an 89 overall, 4.5-star puck skills, 5-star senses and defense, 4.5 physical, and 4-star skating. His shooting at 92 power and high 80s for accuracy. He is going to be a monster heading into 2024-25, which will be his second NHL season and third year in North America. Unfortunately, the Calder went to a prospect on the Predators and not to Slafkovsky, but a very solid showing in his rookie season. It definitely got him some votes, and we'll see if that high overall can boost him into some first-line minutes in 2024-25. So here we are in just 3 years' time. Juraj Slafkovský is a first-liner on the Montreal Canadiens, playing with Gustafsson and Brendan Gallagher. Maybe Gustafsson is Connor Bedard, who knows? It's too bad that Janssen and Horvat are taking up spots here, because Dach's at an 88 overall, Caulfield's being buried down there. But regardless, Slafkovsky is an 89 overall, listed as a first-line forward, 5-star senses and defense with 4 or 4.5-star everything else. I'm very excited to see how he does in a first-line role on the Canadiens. The defense still leaves a bit to be desired. Goaltending, Price is getting older, and the scratches are there. With first line plus first unit power play, I'm expecting Slafkovsky to improve on his 54-point rookie season and have a huge sophomore year. In year number 3, the Montreal Canadiens had a worse year than last, but once again just on the fringe, finishing 18th in the NHL with a record of 36, 34, and 12. Slafkovsky improved in his sophomore season, playing in all 82 games, scoring 19 goals and 42 assists for 61 points. He averaged over just about 21.5 minutes per night and grew to a 90 overall. 5-star puck skills, senses, and defense, 4.5 shooting, 4.5 physical, and 4-star skating. He is becoming a force out there. Unfortunately, I don't know if the team's utilizing everybody quite well. Suzuki 57 points, Caulfield 30 points, so a bit odd in that regard. Kirby Dach 45 points. But the Canadiens continue to improve, and so does Slafkovsky. So headed into the final year of his entry-level deal next season, we'll see what the Canadiens can do. Year number 4 now, the final of Slafkovsky's entry-level deal, and he still finds himself on the first line as the highest-rated player on the Canadiens, 90 overall with Gustafsson and Gallagher. The lineup is still very odd with Caulfield on the fourth line, but we won't concern ourselves with that. 21 years of age, now 6'5", 228 pounds. He's put on 10 pounds since the draft. Attributes are looking absolutely incredible. Let's see how he does on this final year of the entry-level deal, and hopefully the team can perform very well. Slafkovsky first line, first unit power play. Let's hope for continuing improvement. Big yikes of a season in year number 4 for the Canadiens as they finished 28th in the NHL. 35, 38, and 9 was the record. I don't know what happened in the scoring either, because no one scored more than 58 points on the team. Slafkovsky played in all 82 games, but only managed 18 goals and 29 assists for 47 points, playing 20.5 minutes per night. Dropped back down to an 89 overall. Not sure what's happened to this team, but I don't think the lineup decisions have really meshed together very well. Regardless, Slafkovsky now 231 pounds. He's a big boy, 22 years of age, and he is going to need a contract. Hopefully too much money isn't tied up in long-term deals for guys like Horvat, Pavelski, Provorov, other players the Canadiens have gone out and signed. So we'll see how the offseason goes for Montreal and what this team looks like headed into 2026-27. Year number 5 now, and Slafkovsky still in that first line as an 89 overall, playing with Gustafsson and Suzuki now. Nick Suzuki finally a line mate of his. Attributes look like they were exactly the same as the last time he was an 89 overall. I don't think anything else has changed. The offense on the Canadiens looks a bit more distributed. No more 80 overalls on that fourth line, so maybe that'll contribute to a little bit of their success. Contract-wise, the Canadiens and Slafkovsky agreed to a 2-year bridge deal that's going to pay him $17.21 million, an AAV of 8.605. I think he'll still be an RFA at the end of this one, but safe to say that this is kind of prove it to me type of deal for Slafkovsky and for the Canadiens, because he needs to continue to show first line performances and the team has to show why he wants to stick around. So year number 5, let's see it. Another disappointing year for the Canadiens, as in 2026-27 they finished 26th in the NHL with a record of 36, 38, and 8. Slafkovsky, however, did hit new career highs in goals, assists, and points, as he scored 20 goals and 45 assists for 65 points in all 82 games. He had 19 power play points, played almost 20.5 minutes per night, and is back up to a 90 overall. Attributes look great, but without much team success or support, I would be getting frustrated if I were Slafkovsky. Let's hope for a strong offseason once again, headed into the final year of that 2-year bridge contract. Year number 6 now, and this is interesting. Slafkovsky's playing first line with Patrice Bergeron at the age of 42, still in the NHL, and he comes to Montreal for one last season. Cole Caulfield also finally finds himself in the first line. Second is Doc Suzuki and this prospect Yui, 6th overall pick in 2026, so fantastic to finally see that. Slafkovsky up to a 90 overall. Attributes are looking solid. 5-star senses, puck skills, and defense, along with the 4.5 skating, physical, and 4.5 shooting and physical, and 4-star skating. It's the final year of that 2-year bridge deal. The numbers change over time because of the computer trying to make the teams cap compliant, but it is the final year of his 2-year bridge. So let's hope for a stronger year with this lineup that will convince Slafkovsky to sign on longer term. Year number 6 for Montreal, and they somehow get even worse, finishing 3rd last in the NHL with a record of 35, 41, and 6. It was, however, a career year for Juraj Slafkovský, now in a contract year as well. New career highs in goals, assists, and points. He continued to be Mr. Consistent in terms of games played, all 82. Patrice Bergeron was fantastic. Cole Caulfield had a breakout year in comparison to what he's been doing recently. 26 goals, 47 assists, and 73 points from the Slovak. 21 power play points, playing over 21 minutes a night. He remains at a 90 overall, but is now out of a contract and will require a big payday headed into year number 7. With Cole Caulfield and Kirby Dach also need new contracts this offseason, it may be a very difficult summer for Montreal. Year number 7 and the 2028 offseason proved to be quite impactful on the Canadiens. Slafkovsky signed a huge extension, 7 years, $91.7 million, giving him an AAV of $13.1 million. Even for 2028, that is pretty crazy in terms of contracts. He is signed up long-term, but it did come at a cost, as they've lost Cole Caulfield and that 3rd overall pick from a few years ago who was gone even last season. I find it funny the Canadiens do have Owen Beck, who they drafted in 2022, in the real world, also drafted by the Canadiens at the 2022 draft. But Suzuki, Dach, they're all still there. Yui, who was drafted, and this guy Salvador, who was just drafted 4th overall in 2020. So Slafkovsky has some decent line mates as well as some good options when it comes to the first unit of power play. Still at that 90 overall with 5-star puck skills, senses, defense, and 4.5 shooting and physical with 4-star skating. Hasn't really budged too much from there, but as we saw last season, a 73-point season is in him. So let's see if with that new contract he can continue to get to new heights. Year number 7, and it was a good year of improvement for the Canadiens as they finished 20th in the NHL, a good winning record of 40, 35, and 7. So unfortunately, no playoffs, but a solid season from Juraj Slafkovský, who had a career high in assists as he scored 21 goals and 50 assists for 71 points, once again playing in all 82 games, 15 power play points, playing over 22.5 minutes per night, still maintains his 90 overall. Attributes don't seem to have changed really too much from here. Probably not going to change anymore. He's at 239 pounds. He's put on 20 pounds, I believe, since being drafted. So he is definitely a big boy, one of the premier power forwards of the NHL. There's still more time for Slafkovsky to grow, but it seems like he's starting to plateau around these 70-some point seasons. If the Canadiens are going to make the postseason anytime soon, they need to give him some support. Headed into year number 8, Slafkovsky's 7th season in the NHL, and the Canadiens finally listened to me in this offseason, going out and acquiring David Pastrnak and the player that they've passed on all the way back in 2018, Filip Zadina. Slafkovsky now plays on the first line with Yui and Pastrnak as a 90 overall, with all those attributes remaining the same. Zadina, Suzuki, Salvador on the second, Burakovsky, White, Doc on the third. Very solid offense, I do have to say. Quick look at the rest of the team if you've been curious over the years. Here is the defense, and here is the goaltending. A couple of generated players right there. So Slafkovsky is getting paid a lot of money. The management is giving him the support. Let's see what the Canadiens do this season as they push for the postseason. In year number 8, for the first time in, 9 years, the Montreal Canadiens finally make the playoffs with Juraj Slafkovsky, finishing 17th in NHL, just squeaking in with a record of 41, 33, and 8. Another big year for Slafkovsky as he continues to set new career highs in assists and points. 20 goals, 57 assists, and 77 points for Slafkovsky. Suzuki 84, Pastrnak 43 goals, 84 points. So that top line definitely did very well. He had 29 power play points, another new career high, playing just over 21 minutes a night. However, in the playoffs, the Canadiens were promptly swept out of the first round by the Toronto Maple Leafs, who went on to lose to the Lightning, who went on to lose in the Stanley Cup final to the Seattle Kraken. So the Kraken win the Stanley Cup in 2030, while the Canadiens finally just made the playoffs and got swept right away. In the postseason, the Canadiens just couldn't find their scoring. No points in 4 games for Slafkovsky. He was a -2 as well. There was only one goal scored in 4 games for the Canadiens, so 3 players registering a point in the entire series. Pastrnak being injured, it seems like, had a big impact. He was also on a 1-year contract, so that will have an impact on the Canadiens roster for next season. But heading into next year, Slafkovsky is now at a 91 overall, 5-star shooting, senses, puck skills, and defense. The best he's ever been. 4.5 physical, 4-star skating. We'll see what this offseason holds for this team that has finally tasted the postseason. Year number 9, the Canadiens are running it back with one of the strongest teams we've seen so far. Slafkovsky sitting at a 91 overall on that first line. Pastrnak signed a 2-year extension, so that's huge for them. This guy Salvador, who scored 40-some goals last season, he was a 4th overall pick in 2028. He's looking very good. So the top 6 is great. The goaltending is actually pretty solid as well. No more Caden Primo, 82 overall. A couple of generated goalies for the Canadiens. Slafkovsky at a 91. All his attributes seem to be the same as at the end of 2029-30. So let's roll into 2030-31, looking to build on that team that made the postseason last year for the first time in 9 seasons. In year number 9, the Montreal Canadiens once again just squeak into the postseason, finishing 18th in the NHL. A record of 41, 33, and 8 was good enough to snag the last spot in the East. Another great season from Slafkovsky, once again playing in all 82 games, 21 goals, 55 assists, and 76 points from the Slovak, 27 power play points, averaging over 22 minutes a night. But in the postseason, the Montreal Canadiens were once again swept out of the first round and were the biggest losers of the postseason, as they lost to the Islanders, who lost to the Rangers, who lost to the Panthers, who lost to the Vancouver Canucks in the Stanley Cup final. Thankfully, the Canadiens scored more than just 1 goal over the duration of the first round this time around, but 2 assists in 4 games for Juraj Slafkovsky and -6 as well. Not the greatest stat line from him. Headed into year number 10 now. He remains a 91 overall. Attributes looking great. The team is there, but really struggling when it comes to the postseason. And if you're curious, the last 2 years, the starter has been Rickard Niinimäki, who is 0-8 in the playoffs with an .880 save percentage and 4.14 goals against average. He was a second-round pick in 2025, up to an 89 overall, signed for 1 more season, but those are some rough postseason numbers. Year number 10 now, and it seems like the Canadiens are starting to solve some of their problems. Slafkovsky still in that first line, obviously, 91 overall with Ewing Pastrnak. I don't know why Kirby Dach is on the fourth line right now, but at least the forward core seems pretty solid. Jesse Ylonin's out here, probably the longest serving Canadian. Defensively, you got Rasmus Sandin. Goaltending, you have two elite goalies, so there is no reason why this team should not succeed this season. Slafkovsky has scored at least 70 points in 4 straight seasons now. The attributes are looking the same as always. The shooting may have been 5 stars at one point. I may be misremembering that, but either way, between 4 and 5 stars for all the attributes for Juraj Slafkovský. Let's see how he does in a big year with Pasternak's contract expiring, and the reality that they can't have those two highly rated goalies forever. A very nice year number 10 for the Montreal Canadiens as they finished 12th in the NHL this time around with a record of 44, 32, and 6. Make it now 5 years in a row of 70 points or more for Juraj Slafkovský, who scored 17 goals and 53 assists this year in all 82 games, 13 power play points, registering almost 22.5 minutes per night. And in the postseason, it was a great run for the Montreal Canadiens as they took down the Panthers in 5, Blue Jackets in 5, Flyers in 6 in the Eastern Conference Final, and then eventually lost in 5 games to the Anaheim Ducks in the Stanley Cup Final. A great show from the Canadiens to finally have a nice deep run. It's hard to fault the Canadiens as the Ducks were the President's Trophy winners, as well as winning a ton of individual awards, Laine with the Art Ross and the Hart, Quinn Hughes with the James Norris, Trevor Zegras with the Lady Byng, Conn Smythe to Laine, Vezina to Hellebuck, Jennings to Hellebuck, and just him winning that one alone. Laine also winning the Ted Lindsay, so can't fault the Canadiens too much for losing the Cup Finals to Anaheim. In the postseason, Slafkovsky was amazing. Point per game, 3 goals and 18 assists. He is, he has 4.5 star shooting, and he's a power forward, but he has been a great playmaker, as evidenced by 18 assists in 21 games in the postseason. He had a huge role as he averaged 22.5 minutes a night, maintaining around the same as he had in the regular season. And we finish off this season with the attributes still pretty much looking the same as he is at the highest he's been, 91 overall. This is probably pretty much the player that he is, and it shows that when the Canadiens give him a good team, he succeeds. Now, hopefully, in the 2032 offseason, the Canadiens don't really blow up the team too much. I know Pasternak's contract is expiring, and there'll be some other difficulties with the goaltending. As we saw, it looks like putting in Pettinen was the secret and taking out Niinimäki. But it will be difficult for the Canadiens to keep this group together with expiring contracts. So hopefully, Slafkovsky will still have some support come 2032-33. Year number 11 now, and it seems as though David Pastrnak left the team either due to retirement or going to free agency. But Slafkovsky is on the first line as a 91 overall with Yui and Salvador, who's a great sniper. So Slafkovsky, who has emerged as a playmaker, will love to have that. Suzuki, Zadina, Stafford, a prospect on that third line. Pretty weird lineup here where Dach is on the fourth line, and then this Kuokkanen is a healthy scratch, but I'm sure it'll sort itself out over the course of the season. Defense looks okay, and they re-signed their elite goalie to a 1-year contract. So hopefully the window is still there for the Canadiens, who had a tough 5-game exit in the Stanley Cup Final last season. Slafkovsky, 28 years of age at a 91 overall. Slafkovsky looking to keep up the dominance in his 10th NHL season with a couple of very solid line mates. Year number 11, Slafkovsky's 10th in the NHL, saw the Montreal Canadiens make the postseason for a 4th consecutive year, finishing 12th in the NHL with a record of 43, 33, and 6. Make it a 6th consecutive 70-plus point season for Slafkovsky as he's scored 18 goals and 56 assists in 74 games. However, for the first time in his career, he missed 5 games this season, presumably due to injury. So it's impossible to know when that injury came, but even if it was in the very first game of the season, he would have played 738 consecutive games before that through the last 9 seasons, thus placing him 9th all-time in NHL history for consecutive games played. But regardless, 77 games played, 74 points, playing over 22 minutes a night, and growing to a 92 overall for the first time in his career. In the playoffs, the Canadiens beat the Buffalo Sabres in round number 1 in 7 games, but lost to Detroit in round number 2 in 6. The Wings went on to get swept by the eventual Stanley Cup champion Columbus Blue Jackets. Although disappointing, it's now back-to-back seasons that the Canadiens make it out of round number 1, so at least that's a silver lining to build on. 1 goal, 9 assists, and 10 points in 13 games for Slafkovsky. Just a true playmaker out here. Salvador had 12 goals in 13 games, so Slafkovsky and him have been a great duo. 92 overall, as previously mentioned. 5-star shooting, senses, puck skills, and defense. 4.5 physical, 4-star skating. Slafkovsky has never looked this good, and with the Canadiens on the streak that they have been on the last few years, Hopefully they can continue to build on it into 2033-34. Year number 12, and Slafkovsky maintains his 92 overall as he's on the first line with Yui and Salvador. The Canadiens continue to have an interesting forward core. Kirby Dach, 88 overall on the fourth line, really confuses me. He had like 12 minutes of ice time last season, between 12 and 17 minutes a night in his entirety of his career with the Canadiens, even though he's listed as a first line forward. But regardless, 92 overall for Slafkovsky. He'll be turning 30 this season. That 94 passing will continue to serve him well with Yui and Salvador, the sniper with 5-star shooting. So we'll see if the Canadiens can maintain their playoff streak and go for 5 in a row. And we'll see if Slafkovsky can make it 7 years in a row of 70 points or more. The Canadiens continue to gain traction as in year number 12, they make the postseason for a 5th consecutive season, finishing 9th in the NHL with a record of 47, 30, and 5. A huge part of that success came from Juraj Slafkovský, who now at the age of 30 puts up career highs in goals, assists, and points. 24 goals, 71 assists. His career high in points was 77. He gets just 71 assists alone and 95 points. 18 more points than his previous career high. A plus 36, 21 power play points. Only playing about 20 minutes a night as well, not 22 plus as we've been seeing. He increases to a 93 overall and has an enormous season. However, in the postseason, it was a disappointing exit for the Canadiens. They did make it through round number 1 against the Sabres in 6, the Maple Leafs as well in 6, but they were swept out of the Eastern Conference Final by the eventual Stanley Cup champion Washington Capitals, who went on to beat the Sharks in 6. Although it was a disappointing exit, Slafkovsky did go point per game in the postseason, 5 goals, 11 assists for 16 points in 16 games. And it's great to see that Suzuki's still doing well. He was point per game. Kirby Dach chipped in as well. Zadina's out here. So it's good to see that the Canadiens are really gelling and have got something going momentum-wise. Although Slafkovsky did not lead the NHL in points, as this guy Christensen had 114, he still had a very solid season, of course. Again, didn't lead the NHL in assists either, as Isaac Roseyan somehow scored 81 assists. He's been crazy in the simulation as I've been watching so far. But still, a really great season to be proud of. He is up to a 93 overall, as previously mentioned, and has his attributes higher than ever. Continues to grow. 5-star physical as well now, so 5-star everything, aside from the 4-star skating. After a season like that and headed into the final year of that big extension he signed way back when, I hope the Canadiens continue to build on what they've been doing. Year number 13, Slafkovsky's 12th in the NHL and the final year of that big contract he signed that gave him over $90 million. He's playing first line with Suzuki and Salvador. Now that will be an interesting line. On the second line, the prodigal son has come home. Jesperi Kotkaniemi is back on the Montreal Canadiens, so that's great to see, as well as a pretty solid lineup through and through. Defense looks pretty good. Goaltending looks pretty good. This could be another solid season for the Canadiens. Slafkovsky maintained his 93 overall over the offseason, so that's 5-star everything aside from the 4-star skating to begin the season. I'm hoping for another career year from Slafkovsky and a deep run from Montreal. Another similar season for the Montreal Canadiens in year number 13 as they make the postseason for a 6th consecutive season, finishing 11th in the NHL this time around, 44, 31, and 7 their record. Slafkovsky continues to surpass that 70-point plateau we thought he was getting to. Point per game this year, 82 and 82, 19 goals, and 63 assists. However, in the playoffs for the first time in 4 years, the Canadiens did not make it out of the first round. A bit of a surprise against the Senators as they lost in 7 games to Ottawa. The Senators went on to lose in 4 in the Eastern Conference Final with the Maple Leafs, who beat the Ducks in 7 for the Stanley Cup, the team that beat the Canadiens just a few years ago. In those 7 games, Slafkovsky scored 5 assists and is back to a 92 overall after that season. With that contract now expiring, every name that you see on this screen, from Salvador down to Suzuki, aside from Yannick and Suzuki, are out of a contract. So Slafkovsky, Dach, Kotkaniemi, Salvador all need new contracts after this season. So that means the Canadiens have a lot of money, but they also have a lot of spots to fill. Will Slafkovsky come back to a team that has been trending up? Or will he say, I'm 31, I'm coming off the 2 best seasons of my career, and I want to test free agency? We'll see in 2035-36. In year number 14, Juraj Slafkovský decides to go to free agency and sign a one-year deal with the Carolina Hurricanes, paying him $10.24 million. I wouldn't be surprised if he was asking for a lot more and teams just didn't have it. His demand came down over time, and he signed a one-year prove-it-to-me type of deal, which is unfortunate because he's been proving himself year in and year out. Really funny that Kotkaniemi leaves Montreal, goes to Carolina, has a career, comes back to Montreal, and then takes Slafkovsky with him back to Carolina. The Hurricanes still have Nechas, they still have Svechnikov. I believe they've won at least one Stanley Cup as well, so they're a very good team. Defense leaves a little bit to be desired. Goaltending is solid enough for 2035. So Slafkovsky's here. He's playing first line with the Hurricanes. He's being respected. He's being paid a lot of money as a 92 overall, 5-star everything, 4.5-star skating as well. So one of the best seasons of attributes that we've seen from him. So let's see how he does in his first year out of Montreal and whether or not it'll translate to postseason success. In year number 14, somehow the Hurricanes finished dead last in the NHL, 32nd place with a record of 24, 49, and 9. Although Slafkovsky's playoff streak was broken at 6 years, he has now strung together 3 consecutive 80-plus point seasons as he scored 80 points in 82 games to lead his team, 18 goals and 62 assists, 9 power play points, playing 22 minutes and 44 seconds per night. Great season from him, now at the age of 32. 92 overall, attributes look great as always, 5-star everything aside from the skating, but he is out of a contract, so will he re-sign with the Hurricanes after a bottom-feeding season like that? Hard to tell, but he is definitely in for a payday. And if you're curious, the Canadiens did end up missing the playoffs without Slafkovsky in the lineup, and the Ducks went on to another Stanley Cup final, winning another cup here in 2036. Year number 15, and Juraj Slafkovský has once again moved to another team in free agency, once again signing a one-year deal, signing a $10.295 million contract with the New York Islanders, and playing first line with Connor Geekie, another player who went in his draft, 8th overall in this universe, and Emiliano Yashin, the first overall pick in 2027, possibly the best player in the NHL, I believe, according to the statistics and overall. So this should be a deadly first line. Yashin, Geekie, and Slafkovsky, 32 years of age, 92 overall. Currently on a streak of 3 consecutive 80-plus point seasons. I am very excited to see what Slafkovsky and the Islanders can do here in 2036-37. In year number 15, the Eastern Conference was especially strong as the Islanders finished in 16th place in the NHL but did not make the playoffs. They had a record of 40, 33, and 9, but were on the outside looking in. No 80-plus point season from Slafkovsky, but it is now 10 consecutive 70-plus point seasons for him. 74 points in 79 games. Once again, a very rare season for Slafkovsky where he does not play in all 82 games. 18 goals and 56 assists with 17 playoff points. He was averaging about 20.5 minutes per night. Now at the age of 33, he still maintains his 92 overall, but will once again be going to free agency. So does he continue these one-year deals to try and find a team that can get him a Stanley Cup, or does he go longer term? And if you're curious, of course, the Montreal Canadiens won the President's Trophy in 2037 and went on to win the Stanley Cup without Slafkovsky. So great for Canadiens fans, but very unfortunate for Slafkovsky, who likely would have wanted to stick around, but it probably just became an issue of money. In year number 16, Juraj Slafkovsky once again joined a new team. Now that's the 3rd team in as many years. 92 overall, 33 years of age, and was once again on a one-year contract, this time paying him his highest AAV yet, a one-year contract paying him $16.145 million. So a team sees those 10 seasons of 70-plus points, put him on the first line, give him good support, and he can do great things. So hopefully the Predators are going to be doing that this season. Attributes look the same as always, although shooting and physical have dropped from 5 stars to 4.5. Senses, puck skills, and defense all still at 5. Slafkovsky's first year in the Western Conference proved to be suboptimal as the Predators finished 23rd in the NHL, a record of 39, 38, and 5. Another year of Slafkovsky being on a fringe 500 team. Slafkovsky himself, however, had a fantastic season, scoring 25 goals and 68 assists for 93 points in 78 games, on pace for 98 points, which would have been a new career high, just 2 points shy of his 95-point career high in 78 games. Another season of not playing, first time in his career, back-to-back seasons of not playing a full 82 games. He's still a 92 overall, and despite missing the playoffs, he definitely proved his $16 million worth. He's getting up there in age, but he is still pumping out the numbers. When surrounded by good players, he had a couple of really solid ones on his first line. Semyonov here has scored 50 goals. He is still able to produce. So he's back to free agency. Will he see a fourth team in 4 years? We'll have to see in the 2038 offseason. In year number 17, Slafkovsky's journey around the NHL continued as he joined Chicago Blackhawks, his fourth team in as many years, staying in the Western Conference this time, even staying within the Central Division. Another one-year contract, this time almost a 50% discount, to only taking $9.695 million, still a 91 overall. Not sure what's up with his agent, but another one-year deal for him at the age of 34 now. Playing with an interesting top six. Not quite sure what this team has really done in the last few years, but I really hope for Slafkovsky's sake that it is a postseason run. At 91 overall right now, he still has 5-star senses, puck skills, and defense. Shooting down to 4.5, skating and physical both down to 4. Regardless of what happens, Slafkovsky is pushing for a 12th consecutive 70-plus point season, so let's see how he does here in 2038-39. In year number 17, Juraj the Fringe Slafkovsky once again narrowly misses out on the playoffs as the Blackhawks missed out due to a very strong Central Division. 18th place in the NHL with a record of 40, 34, and 8. Just was not good enough as the Wild beat them out with one more regulation plus overtime win. And after 11 consecutive seasons of 70 points or more, Slafkovsky's streak came to an end here in year number 17, scoring 66 points in 82 games. Still a very solid season from the 35-year-old, 22 goals and 44 assists, averaging about 19.5 minutes per night. He does start to drop a little bit. He's down to an 89 overall. His puck skills and senses are still 5 stars, but physical down to 3 stars. Interesting. And defense at 4.5. So we'll see, does he sign another one-year deal with the team? Does he stay with Chicago? Where is he trying to go now towards the end of his career? He's still a great asset for any team, so we'll see what happens headed into 2039-40. Year number 18 now, and Juraj Slafkovsky has signed with the Florida Panthers, his 5th team in 5 years. However, this time he does sign a multi-year deal, only 2 years, and it'll pay him just under $22.5 million, so his agent woke up a little bit. He's still an 87 overall. He's playing on the top line. Brad Lambert is his first-line centerman, went 10th overall in the same draft as him, but he's down to an 80 overall. The top 6 leaves a little bit to be desired, perhaps. His line mate on the left wing is also a playmaker, so not really anyone to really pass the puck to. That was the issue that he had in Chicago, and what saw his point totals dip a little bit. Give him the right players, hopefully the right special teams time, and Slafkovsky is still a 70-plus point guy despite being down to an 87 overall. Shooting down to 4.5, defense at 4, skating at 4, but physical, interesting to note, down to only 3 stars. So in his older age, he may be a little less of a physical threat, but he is still able to move the puck around. 94 offensive awareness, 91 passing. We'll see what happens here in 2039-40. In year number 18, it's no surprise that Slafkovsky is once again part of a team that just misses out on the playoffs as the Panthers finished 17th in the NHL with a record of 40, 35, and 7. Slafkovsky himself, however, was back to his old playmaking ways. He played in all 82 games and scored 81 points, 20 goals and 61 assists, 23 power play points, and although he dropped to an 86 overall, he still played over 19.5 minutes per night and was just a point shy of point per game. So very good season, a bounce back from last year with the Hawks. Although he's at an 86, he still has the 5-star puck skills and senses, which definitely help in the simulation. Offensive awareness down to 92, so we'll see how the 2040 offseason goes. He'll have to get some training in with Gary Roberts, who's probably like in his 70s by now. And honestly, we're moving into that retirement territory, so Slafkovsky, I'm sure he's fed up of all these years of missing the postseason. We'll see what happens headed into 2040-41. Year number 19 in 2040, Slafkovsky remains with the Panthers, thankfully, the first time that he plays back-to-back years on the same team in quite a long time. Down to an 86 overall, but still very serviceable. The first line in Florida is a bit odd with Lambert at a 78 overall, and the other playmaker McMillan, but hopefully he continued to do what he did, because last year 81 points in 82 games was fantastic. The biggest thing to note is that his potential has dropped to exact top 9, so I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the season he's closer to an 83 or an 84, regardless of performance. He is still maintaining the 5-star senses and puck skills, which will allow him to simulate well, but it is the last year of his contract, so retirement is on the table. Hopefully it's a solid year for the Panthers, because we know that Slafkovsky will always give it his best. Another difficult year for the team that Slafkovsky is on, as the Panthers finish third last in the NHL, 30th place, with a record of 31, 43, and 8. Slafkovsky missed the playoffs in the first 6 years of his NHL career, made the postseason for 6 consecutive years, and now has once again missed for 6 more consecutive years. This was also the shortest season of Slafkovsky's career, as he only played in 63 games, and the 47 points that he scored tied his career low back in his third season with the Canadiens. 20 goals and 27 assists, 47 points in 63 games for the 37-year-old. He would have been on pace for 61, but still well below what he's been doing as of late. He drops to an 84 overall, played over 21 minutes a night in those 63 games that he did play in, but he is out of a contract and has been kicked many, many times. 6 consecutive years, as I mentioned, without the postseason. Does he have it in him to go on 1 or 2 more runs? We'll see in the 2041 offseason, and hopefully headed into 2041-42. But after the years of pain, Juraj Slafkovský decides to call it a career in 2041. He ends his career with the Panthers, 1,445 games played. He was very consistent through and through. 365 goals, 921 assists, and 1,286 points. He goes out with Shane Wright, as well as some other players who were drafted the same year. Brad Lambert and even Danny Zilkin here. So, man, it was, as I mentioned, 6 years to start the career, no playoffs, 6 years of playoffs, and then 6 more years of no playoffs. So only 6 years they saw the postseason out of 18 in the NHL. 19 professional seasons in the NHL. Retires at an 84 overall. Still had it in him, but he was probably just kicked a few too many times, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to play in Europe. His best season statistically was in 2033-34, his second to last year with Montreal. 95 points right there. Never scored more than 26 goals, but he never really had less than, never less than 27 assists, but usually in the 30 to 40 minimum range. 70s, 60s, and 50s also up there. His plus-minus at the end of his career ends at a plus 48. 921 penalty minutes, took over 3,000 shots, had an 11.2 shooting percentage, had 288 power play points, 18 shorthanded points, averaged over 21 minutes per night, played over 30,000 minutes in the NHL, took a few faceoffs here and there, was 44.43%, threw over 3,000 hits. He was a physical force out there. Over 3,000 hits, my goodness, that's a crazy number. Had 355 blocked shots, 868 giveaways, but 1,753 takeaways. He was solid defensively as well. In the playoffs, he didn't see much action, but in the 65 games that he played, 9 goals, 45 assists, and 54 points. He saw 1 Stanley Cup final, but no Stanley Cups. No awards beyond a conference championship with the Canadiens. Nothing really to show in terms of personal hardware, aside from maybe a few team-related awards like the Molson Cup at the Bell Center. Ends a +1 in the postseason as well, and had 11 power play points. Played close to 22.5 minutes per night. And in the playoffs, he also threw 178 hits in those 65 games. Despite no awards to show for his career, Slafkovsky was an elite playmaker. According to today's NHL, assuming no other prospects or anything else changes too much, he would slot in at 19th all-time in assists at 921, ahead of Brian Trottier and right behind Stan Mikita. Through his 18 years in the NHL, he could have played a maximum of 1,476 games. He played in 1,445. A playing rate of 97.899%, rounded up to just about 98% of games that he could have played in, he did play in. And if it wasn't for this last season where he only played in 63, I believe he only would have missed around like 12 games in his entire career. So really something to be proud of there as well. Thus, ladies and gentlemen, concludes the career of Juraj Slafkovsky, the first overall pick in the 2022 NHL Entry Draft. It's quite the screen you're seeing right now, as he had a lot of years with Montreal, but then bounced around Carolina, New York Islanders, Nashville, Chicago, and Florida before calling it a career. An elite playmaker, a solid force when it came to games played as well. So consistent year in and year out. Made a lot of money along the way as well. No franchise records, no awards, nothing like that, but a very impressive career. And you know what? If he could do some of that with the Montreal Canadiens, I think they would be very, very happy. 70s, 80s, 90s of points. I'm very excited, for one, to see what Juraj Slafkovsky becomes on the Canadiens. I think, as I said at the beginning of the video, he has a very high ceiling in today's NHL, and this goes to show that he could really be something special. We especially saw that if you give him the right teammates and line mates, he will succeed. So Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, and now even Kirby Dach, I am looking at you. Thank you so very much for taking the time to watch this one. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please do leave a like and consider subscribing as well. Career simulations like these, Shane Wright with the Kraken coming out soon, NHL 22 franchise mode, 07 dynasty mode, FIFA, MLB, real life hockey, live streams, and much, much more happening here on the channel. So if you think that you'd enjoy it, this would be a great time for you to join the team because it would be that much stronger with you as a part of it. Be sure to leave your thoughts on Slafkovsky's career down here in the comments on YouTube or over on the Discord server, link in the description. Thank you so very much once again for watching. Let me know if you enjoyed this type of video and if it should have been a bit more in-depth, a bit less in-depth, shorter, longer, what would you have liked? I've done 40 minutes with Caulfield, an hour and a half with Zegras, so I can really go either way. But thank you for taking the time to enjoy it nonetheless, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in the next one.